A very good evening to everybody logged in to the February edition of our membership forum, Going Beyond Toastmasters. Now, as Toastmasters, we know from experience that the more we practice our speaking skills, the more likely we are to improve these speaking skills. Now, for an example, a concert pianist doesn't play for just 15 minutes a week. In order to remain on top of his or her profession, he or she would obviously practice the keyboard for a considerable amount of time each day. Now, similarly, athletes realize that jogging or playing a sport just for a few, maybe few sessions a week, just for a small time each day would not help them to achieve their fitness goals. They need to exercise for at least 3 to 4 times a week. And similarly, practicing and using Toastmaster skills outside our club environment is, of course, important for us to ensure our Toastmaster fitness. And I'm sure that all of you logged into our session today would definitely second this. So, ladies and gentlemen, our membership forum today is going to help you to understand how you can achieve excellence in communication and leadership beyond the framework of Toastmasters. So, before we begin, let me introduce to you our panelist, who is not unknown to you by now. So, distinguished Toastmaster Yogendra Prasad Satyasilan. He is an experienced chief financial officer with a demonstrated history of turning around and developing businesses. He's skilled in corporate strategy, business development, employee engagement, and sustainable business practices. He's passionate about advancing a just cause, empowering people, and public speaking. So, talking about public speaking, he has been a Toastmaster for over 10 years. And he's also the past president of the Pinnacle Advanced Toastmasters Club, which is the only advanced Toastmaster Club in Sri Lanka. So, I think this individual needs no further introduction. We warmly welcome you to our forum today, sir. Very good evening to you.
Good evening. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. Thank you very much for the invitation.
Right, wonderful. So, talking of Toastmasters, now, as we all know, Toastmasters began as a series of speaking clubs organized by Ralph C. Smedley, our founder. And this, of course, the reason behind him starting the club was because he saw a need for men in the community to learn how to speak and, of course, to conduct meetings and things like plan programs and work on committees. So he wanted to help people like this. So, in simple, Toastmasters was founded with a vision of empowering individuals to become more effective communicators and, of course, more effective leaders. So, my first question to you, just before we dive into what we are going to really address, my first question to you, sir, is do you think that this vision is still relevant? And this is a changing world that we are in. So, if this is relevant, how relevant do you think it is, in your opinion?
Very nice question indeed. I believe personally that words are the most powerful tool um, in our arsenal that any human being has, and we can hurt people, we can uplift people, we can harm people, we can make them better, we can make somebody feel great, and make we can also make people feel worthless with words. So I think that is the strength of power of words. So definitely, is there a requirement? Is there a need for great communicators who use words in such a manner that people who are listening to them feel better and uplifted and are wanting and motivated to do something better, stand for something better, and feel better? Definitely. So I think that has definitely not changed. Or if we take a historic perspective, Toastmasters was founded in 1924, and it was founded after the World War ended in 1918. I'm sure Ralph C. Smedley, when he founded um, the Toastmasters movement, it didn't occur to him. I don't believe that it didn't occur to him that the world had just gone through a war where millions and millions of people have killed each other. People who coexisted have fought with each other. And then because of lack of communication and lack of understanding, and then because of the lack of communication, lack of understanding, hatred was created. And because of that, now people stand separately and fight with each other. And people have, the world has faced a tragedy because of lack of communication. So I'm sure, as the visionary he was, when he founded Toastmasters, he had that vision to say, through communication, we can make the world a better place. It can't be only because I stand for great communication skills and leadership skills. It can't be. I think he stood for a bigger cause, and that cause could be that we never know. So yes, it started upon in a world which was different and varied and was at war and had gone through tragedy. But also the beautiful fact of the matter is that now, after so many years, if we look around the world, have we increased the understanding in between people? Have we become global citizens because now we are connected with each other, from a person in the United States to a person in New Zealand? We are connected to the whole world. But are we really connected? Have we understood people better? Do we have an understanding? Do we understand people rather than judge people? Do we make a commitment to make an understanding and not make differences, not create differences? Have we become of the bigger circle that we could have become, or have we shrunk into the smallest circle possible and then try to say that our small circle is the greatest circle possible? Whether it's the country, whether it's the religion, whether it's the ethnicity, whether it's the organization we work for, whether it's male or female, the gender, or so on and so forth. So the question is, has the world become a better place? I think years have passed, circumstances have not. So I believe the need for great communicators who will speak on behalf of others and who can create that bridge, who can build that bridge in between people, is much more than what it was before. I'm saying communicators, and I'm not saying speakers. I'm not using the word communicators, and it's beautiful that it is the same word that is used in the vision of Toastmasters, because a speaker is short term. He delivers a speech, and the objective and focus is on delivering the best speech possible. Like in competitions, right? We have trained people also. They are like, I will make sure that we deliver the best speech possible. What is the objective? I delivered the speech with great gestures, body language. Impact is I either win the trophy, people will come and say that you did a good speech. But communicators stand for something much bigger, for a long-term vision, to uplift people, make people better. They focus on what is the impact they make rather than the speech in itself. They can speak much lesser than a speaker, but the impact they could create is much more. So if the question is whether the Toastmasters vision is important and is it relevant in the current context, most definitely. Because I believe the world we live in has seen great technological growth, but unfortunately, as people, we have not made great differences, great changes in becoming one. We have only become much smaller than much bigger. We have shrunk rather than grow. So I believe if we are great communicators, we can make a greater impact in the world. And for that reason, movements like Toastmasters and visions of making a great communication and great leaders and great communicators is much more important. And I believe the vision is much more relevant than it was founded in 1924.
Thank you, sir. So I think undoubtedly it's clear to us as to what you believe in. That is that Toastmasters is much more relevant in today's context than it was before. And I think you definitely made an impact by explaining to us why you say that, because I think this analysis that you put forward is something that a single person might have not thought of earlier, because those facts and figures that you mentioned to complement what you had to say was indeed valuable. And along these same lines, I'd like to ask you, is this the same reason that led you to join Toastmasters, or is it something different? I mean, what was the reason that led you to believe that, joining this organization is going to do you some good? I'd like to know.
I would like to sound very smart as to say that I had all of this in mind while I joined, but I have to be honest and say not at all. A friend was talking to another friend and said there is a Toastmasters meeting at a five-star hotel because my I was joining Toastmasters in Saudi Arabia, and I said, perfect. I would like to spend some time somewhere else other than work and home. So that is how I came into Toastmasters. I did not have this greater vision at all. So I came in hoping there will be free food, and uh, thank God it has that objective has also been satisfied. But I believe over the years, because of the people I have met, for the and for what they have stood for, I think I have grown into seeing what this movement should stand for. So I believe I did not join Toastmasters with a greater goal, a greater vision, definitely not. But over the years, I think because of the people I have met and also the things that I believe in, I have come to believe that a greater good can be created through Toastmasters, and that's why I have continued to do what I have been doing. So yeah, so it's I think I believe in the vision completely, but then it only has I have only fallen in love with the vision or fallen in alignment with the vision over the years rather than while joining. I didn't even know what Toastmasters was.
Okay, that's I think a very different answer to what I was expecting, but I think you were brutally honest there. And now again, now that you've been very honest with us and told you your reason for joining Toastmasters, but why you're here now is, I believe, something a little different to what you just uh, said about the reason that led you to join. So now we are headed to the most important questions of today. So this is on how you have traveled your journey of Toastmasters, and of course about how it benefited you. And like I said, to get to that reason why you're still a Toastmaster, being a person of your caliber, a person who turns around businesses, what led you to still hold on? So
Uh,
has this Toastmasters movement helped you? Um, and okay, let me rephrase it this way. Has
right.
this Toastmasters movement helped you within and outside Toastmasters, both in your personal and professional life? And if so, in which ways?
Right. I think it has impacted how I looked at life and how I was perceived and all of that. So I'll give you a little bit more detail. So while I was growing up, I was always the talkative guy wherever I went. And most of the time, what people said is stop talking. And this is the only organization where when I spoke, people said, please talk. So I liked that difference completely from the beginning. So I was like, perfect. This is a super place to be in. And that's why I think the learning was easier for me because I loved speaking at the beginning in itself. So how has it impacted? So you asked about the journey. I will make it very short because I think that doesn't add a lot of value. So I'll just give a brief idea of what I have done. I am a Toastmaster for 10 years now. I was a Toastmaster for 5 years in the Middle East. In Saudi Arabia, I was a member of a few clubs, but I joined Diamond Toastmasters Club in Dammam, Saudi Arabia there first, and then after 5 years, I came back to Sri Lanka and I joined Pinnacle Advanced Toastmasters Club here. So that is basically my journey, and how it has impacted me is a good question. It's an amazing question because I did not. It has impacted me in ways that I did not think it would. Because, for example, uh, when you are confident as the person who you are, what happens is you walk with a sense of confidence, or walk with a sense of swagger, walk with a sense of hope and belief to look at life. So I think that completely changed. That what was not there before changed because now I know how to handle myself. I can stand in front of people and not be nervous, not be so out of place, not to feel that I have to shrink and slow down and not show who I am rather than be out there and be out there with people and be the true me rather than try to be somebody else. So definitely it has instilled a sense of confidence in me because what it had done is to support who I am and take it further. So I think that has been amazing. Second is um, in personal life, I think it has built my perspective. When we go to a Toastmasters meeting, almost all the time, what we do is listen. Most of the time, we are not even speaking, we are not even evaluating. Most of the time, we are not even speaking in a round robin session. But then, most of the time, we are listening. And then there are people who bring in concepts and ideas and experiences that builds perspective. I think that is very important. Like most of the time in life, what we don't have is experiences in certain situations. But in a Toastmasters meeting, because people are sharing their ideas, sharing their thoughts, what happens is you build your own perspective and you start to see the world through other people's eyes. And I think that is something that is huge, that is massive, that I have received. Next is I have met great people. I have met absolutely great friends. Most importantly, I have met amazing mentors. My mentor is Mr. Sadiq Basha from Saudi Arabia, a friend and a mentor who had been amazing. People like Ajit Sebastian, who joined the club at the same time, was absolutely amazing evaluator who went on to teach me how to evaluate. And only because of people like that, I was able to at least become a little bit better in what I do as an evaluator or a speaker. And then I have met people who I would have never met, but people who I'm so proud to have associated with, like people like DTM Krishanti, DTM Yusuf, Iromi, Sonia, Bandula, so many people. I think wherever we turn around, we have people to look up to. I think that is amazing, because most of the time in life we don't know whom to ask, whom to speak to. Like when I was young, when I wanted advice, I did not know whom to go to. But now this movement has given us the opportunity to speak to people who have gone through the mill, gone through life, has experience that's fabulous. So I think what I consider an amazing opportunity is to also meet these amazing people and become great. So people experiences, and also I would say the perspective building in personal life. And I also have definitely taken the learning from what I have learned here in Toastmasters to my professional life, and I'm sure we are going to discuss that next. So we will discuss that next. Yeah.
Of course, that's what I'm going to ask you next. But before that, I think if I'm to re-emphasize on those, the key takeaways of from the answers that you gave, one is that you always need to go an extra mile to find out or to discover how far you can go. And the other thing is, while you walk along that journey, there are so many opportunities that you're going to come across, and you need to grab them, right? And once you grab them, you realize that you meet great people. There's so much networking, and that it's going to open up a world of opportunities for you. And I think you're somebody who has lived it. So on this same note, again, just like you mentioned earlier, now in line with what you mentioned, it is always important for us to make sure that all these three things are fulfilled once you become a Toastmaster. Now, if I'm to ask you a question, why is it necessary to go beyond Toastmasters and also at the same time transition whatever skills that you have acquired as a Toastmaster to go beyond the boundaries of the fraternity? What kind of answer would you give me? Why do you think it's so important? I mean, now, see, these 3 points that you mentioned happen within Toastmasters. Now, what is the purpose of taking this beyond the Toastmaster frame?
Beautiful. That's a super question. I believe we definitely should take this outside, and if we don't do that, there is no purpose. So I don't believe that our greatest achievement is in achieving anything within Toastmasters. Like we achieve anything within Toastmasters, great, congratulations to you. I'm wholeheartedly and honestly happy for you. But then my personal opinion is that it has to be beyond, because if we don't go beyond, if we don't take uh, the learnings beyond Toastmasters, then I think we have failed. I'll go into a little bit more detail. For example, what is the purpose of joining Toastmasters? I think I joined Toastmasters because I saw that my communication skills were not good, and I could see that the world was already in an information age where information was important, how I speak, what I say, and also uh, the people who are valued the most are the people who have the most, not the most knowledge, but also how they communicated. So communication skills were much more important than your skills to know it or whatnot. So people were valued because of not only what they know, but how they shared the vision, how they shared the idea with others. So it was evident for me that in order for me to grow, communication skills were definitely important. And that's exactly why I joined. I did not even know about leadership skills. I did not know what it can do otherwise, whether I can take whether I will meet great people, whether I can take the skills outside. I did not even know. But now, after a few years, I see that the purpose of Toastmasters is to build great communicators who can stand for a bigger cause, because communicators objective is to not to deliver a speech winner trophy or not to be a leader in order to achieve a short-term goal, but a communicator's goal, a vision is long term. It's an infinite game where we have to stand for something much bigger. Like, what do you stand for? Do you stand for the right things? And if there is a movement that you have to support, let's go out there and with our words uplift people and bring people together so that we can stand for that bigger cause. Now, if we only we are people, all of us in Toastmasters are people who have the great skill of the power of words, the greatest power that people can have, in my opinion. The power of words to uplift, to make people better, to share an idea, to convince people to stand up for something. We have that, and now what do we do with it? If we only restrict that within Toastmasters, that is like having a Ferrari and treating like a Toyota. It's like I have this great car possible, but then I'm going to drive it like a Toyota. I'm going to not wash it, not to repair it, not to take care of it. No. But when we have a Ferrari, we take care of it with all our heart. It's a Ferrari, right? I think that is exactly what we have to do in Toastmasters. We have to take this communication skills and stand for something bigger and share it with the world. Use the power of words that you have learned here. Use the power of leadership skills that you have learned here, and go out there and share it. Now, for example, I can be a distinguished Toastmaster or I cannot be a distinguished Toastmaster. Doesn't matter, right? Let's say I am a distinguished. My mentor, I told you, Sadiq Basha, he is not a distinguished Toastmaster, but we both speak. He is much greater than me. The world doesn't care what your designation is. The world doesn't care whether you are a distinguished Toastmaster, a president distinguished, club president, or a area director or a division. Nothing. Nobody will care about who you are. World will only care about two things. It will care about what you stand for, and it will also look for whether you are a good communicator or not, whether you are able to communicate ideas clearly, articulate ideas clearly or not. It does not matter who we are. It does not matter what our designation is. So if what I would suggest is, if you are a good communicator, here is one thing to do. Forget about what your designations are. Go deliver a speech, get the feedback, and then see where you stand. We should be much bigger than the designations that put us in a jail. I think we should stop being proud of the fact that we are distinguished Toastmasters. No, we should be proud of the impact that we create in the world. So I think it's not to say that if you are a distinguished Toastmaster, don't be proud. No, that's not what I'm saying. That can't be the only reason why we are proud of. We should be proud of the fact that we are creating an impact in the world. When we go speak, somebody feels better, somebody feels uplifted, somebody feels the world in a better manner than before. If we can do that, then we have succeeded. I think that is important. So if you are a Toastmaster, you have the power of words. Now you are a Ferrari. Don't ever use yourself like a Toyota. So if you have learned leadership skills, you are a club president, great, fabulous. You are a president distinguished club president, fantastic. You can't stop there. When I say you can't stop there, I'm not telling you to become area director. Good if you become, but then use the leadership skills that you have learned and put it out there in your personal and professional life. Are you operating like a leader? Are you setting goals and motivating your team to become better? Are you creating a culture where everybody is uplifted and feels better and goes out there and has this great will to change the world or make something great? Like in Toastmasters, that's exactly what we do, right? We try to create. Hopefully, everybody tries to create a better learning experience for everybody, a better learning environment for everybody. We treat your success as mine and my success as yours. I think that is the world we create in. That is the club that we are trying to create. When you are making a mistake, I feel like it's my own mistake and I'll try to come and help. When I make a mistake, you come and help me too. You uplift me and I uplift you. We become better by helping each other. So if that is so, if you stop here, then I think it's a loss for everybody. It's a loss of, look at how much time. Let's take Hashini. I think you spend a lot of time in Toastmasters, like so many clubs, so many events like this, and you do so fabulously well. But question is, we spend so much time practicing our skill, but are we using it elsewhere? I'm sure you do. What I'm saying is, are we all doing that? If we are a leader here, we should be leaders out there too. This can't be a happy place where we learn everything and we are the king here. It doesn't matter whether you are the king here or not. This is the nets. You practice. You hit a 6 in the nets. Nobody is scoring. But unless you go out there and play in the field and hit a 6, it will never be counted. So if you are a leader here, great. Congratulations to you. I'm very proud of you. All of us are proud of you. We all are rooting for you. But that is not where the game stops. That is actually the beginning, never the end. So if you are feeling like, okay, I'll give you an example. I think now, for example, today I read that the probability of early death increases only by 20% if you are obese. I was so happy to read it. I was so happy to read it. If you are obese, only 20% increase in probability of early death. I was very happy. But then what concerned me was when you have a job that is, the culture is not great, the stress that is created from being part of a organization that is bad increases that probability from 20% to 70%. So here in Toastmasters, most of us are so good to each other. So we support each other, we motivate each other, we are kind to each other. We, for no reason, we applaud. We say, great job. We lie a little bit and say, we have never seen a speaker like you. Every time somebody achieves something, we are so happy for them. But do we carry that to our professional lives? When somebody does a good job, do we say, super job? When some team member does it, do we give complete credit to that person and say, not to grab the credit, but to give it away? And when a mistake happens, do we take the full credit and safeguard our team? That we will do in Toastmasters. Do we do it in work also? I think when we do that, then we create a culture that is great. So we should not be judged by who we are here, but we should be judged. We should let the world judge us for who we are outside. This is only a practicing ground. We should remember that, and then we should build ourselves in a way that we go out there and tell the world that I have practiced enough and this is what I have learned. Now I am here to give wholeheartedly what I have learned. So if there is a leader here who uplifts everybody and goes to work and makes sure that nobody gets any sort of credit and it's hell working under him or her, what's the point? We have lost. The vision of Toastmasters has failed in that case, in that person. So what I would say is, it doesn't matter what we learn in anything. This is a practicing ground. We have to learn from here and then give it away for free for everybody else there. So if we don't stand for the right things here anyway, if you learn to stand for the right things here, you should also learn to stand for the right things outside. Here, we like, for example, Sinhalese, Tamils, Muslims, Christians, no problem. Everybody is a friend. But outside, the moment we step out of the club, if we are like, oh, that guy, oh, that person, he thinks and he operates in a different way, then I think we have actually failed. The learning is of no use. We are educated but not knowledgeable. We are educated but not matured. What's the point? So my suggestion is, let us take the skills that we have learned here and take it outside, because our objective should be to stand for much bigger things. And this and Toastmasters fraternity gives us a very important skill to use the words in such a manner that can make an impact in the world. I think we all can make an impact in the world, because it doesn't matter whether you are creating an impact for 1 million people or one person. You are still creating an impact. People who have the power of words can make a difference, can make an impact. So my suggestion is, let us not stop here. We all are great people. We are all have learned the art of speaking, making, leading people, setting targets, standing up for things that are good. But if we stop here, we have made a mistake. We should not stop here. It is a must that we go out there and share it and create a culture, create a workspace, create social institutions, create in our personal families. We take these skills and take it out there and become better. If we have not done that, then I think the point is lost. Then we will be just people who are using a Ferrari like a Toyota. Arjun.
Wow, I'm just honestly awestruck. I mean, everything that you said right now, I think is, I wouldn't say new knowledge to anybody, but it's a lovely way of interpreting the obvious, but the unseen obvious. Because although we practice so well in Toastmasters, we never actually consider it a practice ground. And like you said, although we know how, uh, although we might know our own value, do we really treat ourselves the way we should be treated? Do we consider ourselves a Ferrari? I mean, I'm not a car enthusiast, but that struck me really hard. Because we all know the difference between a luxury car and a car that we use day to day. But do we really compare ourselves? Do we learn from these things? So these are things we hear in all these inspirational speeches in Toastmasters, but do we actually go out there? And like you said, I think something that struck me a lot was about the comments that people make sometimes. Do we, like inside a Toastmasters, within a Toastmasters forum, we have all of these ethics that we follow, but do we go out into the world and do that? And everything that we learn here, we learn to be great leaders, we learn to be great speakers, but do we go out and perform the same way? Like you said, we don't really sometimes see that. We need to be able, because this actually called to mind a quote that I've heard by Simon Sinek that says, words may inspire, but it's actually action that creates change. So
My favorite
similarly,
too. So
oh, right. That's wonderful. So I think that's what we really need to keep in mind. And I don't think anybody logged into this session or anybody who's going to watch the recording of this session is ever going to forget that. I think this was a wonderful, a way of putting it. And I'm really thankful to you for exaggerating it in such a way that it will remain in our minds forever. So Toastmasters is just the practice ground. So where you need to really play the game is out there in the world beyond the framework of Toastmasters. Wonderful. I already have 2 questions that have come in, and I'd like to open the floor for the others too to please send in their questions. Based on the timing, we'll take the questions and detail.
I believe the more questions we have, greater, because I think that will show what I really believe, and also I'll be able to share what I believe and what not. So I think it'll be perfect if you can send in a few more questions so that we can have a conversation. Yeah.
Of course. Thank you very much. Now, since you made a mention of this again, and since this is one of the questions I was waiting to ask you, that you cited so many examples to explain this, and obviously it's crisp and clear. But of course, we'd also like to know a few personal experiences you had, because they always say, even in speeches, they always say you can talk about Thomas Alva Edison, Isaac Newton, all the big shots in the world, but you always need to add a personal touch. So now I would like to come to that point and ask you, could you share with us a few specific examples of the skills that you maybe learned in Toastmasters and how you applied them elsewhere in your own life?
Fabulous. So uh, I'll tell you why I took up the presidency of Pinnacle. I think that's a beautiful place to begin. Um, when I was offered the opportunity, at that point of time, I was also being promoted to my current position at work. And for the first time in my life, I was working with people who are much smarter than me, much knowledgeable than me, much more experienced than me, who are great at what they did for the first time in my life. Up until that point, I was the best at what I did. I did not have to be bothered because I was good at what I did. And everybody else, I could guide them because I was good. But when I was promoted to this position, I had to be, that was different because now I'm dealing with people on a regular basis who are smarter. So one of the problems you face when you do that is it can break you or make you is the fact that you will be thinking uh, whether I can deal with this ego. How do I manage this ego? For example, there will be somebody who's greater than you, who's doing a superb job. If we feel threatened by it, then we are gone. We can never become leaders. So a true leader will have to understand will yearn for the fact that there will be much smarter people working for us. Unless smarter and greater, stronger people work for us, we will never grow. So our objective, our purpose as a leader is to create a platform where everybody succeeds so we succeed together. And never to hoard the credit so that everybody's achievement becomes my own, everybody's mistake becomes their own. I'm this great person who can never make any mistake. I think that's not a leader's job. So uh, so what I have learned is um, as a leader, for me to grow, I had to know how to deal with people who are much smarter. So when I took up the presidency at Pinnacle, the club, like many other clubs, has so many people who are talented. Half the club is distinguished Toastmasters. There are people who have served in international boards, who have been district directors of the country and the district. So for me, now it was a practicing ground where I learned how to deal with it, how to lead a team that is much stronger and much smarter than me. And then take this learning and go out and there implement it at work. And it is for only that reason that I took up that position. I wanted to learn how to lead a team that is much stronger than us. And for that reason, it didn't come from, okay, I'll take up this so that something else will come. No, this opportunity came at work, and I saw that this is a practicing ground that is available, and I took it up because of that. Right. So that was a super practicing ground because people had so many different opinions. People wanted to be heard. People shared their knowledge. People shared their experience. And then there were people also like, I'm not going to share it unless you ask me. So now we will go out and ask them. We will give them the platform. So it was a super solid learning experience. So for me to learn that was great. So whatever I do, I treat this as a learning ground. So for example, now when I give feedback, I have to make sure that people are uplifted. People at the end don't feel like when I give feedback, it's only done with the objective of putting them down so that they don't get the bonus. But then when it's honest, it comes from the heart. We use the skills that we have learned from evaluation, from giving feedback, from speaking to people in leadership positions, and then make it in such a way that it feels honest, it feels heartfelt. One more thing as a leader you would do is you will deal with so many people who are smarter, who are greater than you, and who are also not, who are also just upcoming, who need support and all of that. So there will be a whole spectrum of people who are PhDs and who have been in companies for 50 years or 60 years or whatever. And then you also have people who have joined recently or who are smaller staff and all of that. You as a leader have to build trust with all of them. You can't be like, okay, I will only speak to the top guys in my organization, top guys or girls in the organization. But we have to build trust all over the spectrum. So how do we do that? I learned that in Toastmasters. It doesn't matter whether you are a distinguished Toastmaster or a district director, we treat you differently. And when you are a person who is joining yesterday, I will treat you differently. You come to me and talk to me because I will not come and talk to you. But then we learn here how to build trust with each other, whether it's a past president of the Toastmasters International, or whether you are a person who has joined, who's delivering your icebreaker. We evaluate with the same integrity with which we evaluate a speaker. So those things we learn, and most importantly, skills like building trust I learned it here. I learned it in a manner that I was able to then go and practice it out there, where I was able to keep, without being somebody else to build the trust, I was able to be myself and build the trust still. I think that is something that we learn here. We don't have to operate in a different manner. Just because I'm going to speak in front of people, I don't have to have an American accent. If you have an American accent, good for you. But then so for me, I always say trophy instead of trophy. People have corrected me so many times, but I'm still that way. It's all right to make a mistake. We don't have to appear this perfect human being. So what? So what if we make a mistake? So what? Why do we have to create this great image of us that is spotless? We don't have to. We just have to be human. So I think these are skills that I learned from here. People have told me it's all right to make a mistake. That is exactly what we say when we are leaders, right? It's all right if you don't achieve a goal. It's perfectly okay. It's all right if you make a mistake. It's all right if you misspell a word. It's all right if you. I think we have a few more questions. Is there if we there are things that we learn from here which makes us feel like it's all right to make a mistake. I think that is the culture that we have to create elsewhere, and also that is the same way that we have to operate so that we will be able to build trust with people. So I think that is an important skill that I have learned from this also. So yeah, Ashini, I think that gives a little bit of a glimpse of what it is.
Absolutely. And again, like I said, these are things that all of us actually get. I mean, these benefits that all of us receive as Toastmasters. But how many of us really take time to think about it and value it? Just like what we say, God has given us blessings, but how do we count these blessings? Similarly, Toastmasters has also given us so many benefits, but how many of us really take time to acknowledge them and see how we can take it out? Uh, Again, something that Barack Obama has said, change will not come if we wait for some other person or some other time. We are the ones that we've been waiting for. So it's us. We are the ones who need to change and really, do make things happen in the world. So along these lines,
I would like to say,
yes,
I would like to just add, I agree. I think the quote was beautiful, that we are the change that we have
we've
been waiting for. Yeah, which is great. But also we have to believe that we are enough. Most of the time what happens is we don't believe that we are enough. We operate as if like a superhero has to come and a heroine has to come and uplift us. I don't agree to that. I believe that we all are enough to make an impact in the world, a dent in the world, that in the way that we want, because we are already enough. All of us, you, I, everybody. So yeah, I think there are some.
Thank you very much. Go ahead, sir. Please do.
There are some beautiful questions in the people are asking.
Of course. Yeah. The next question is actually a question that has been posted by the panelists, and also that has been on my mind. Now, we spoke a lot about how Toastmasters has benefited you and about of course other people, and how we can take this out into the society at large on the same lines. Now, a lot of people think that Toastmasters is only about public speaking, but of course it's not. Now, you yourself is a finance professional. Now, this question that has come in also reiterates on the same thing. You're a finance professional. Has Toastmasters helped you in becoming a better professional, and how? Because as a professional, you're not only going to be worried about speaking. There's so much more, so many other skills. So what are these other skills that Toastmasters has helped you to cultivate, and how has it been useful for you?
Okay, so the question about the finance professional is what? Oh, better.
It's
How
along
has
the
it
same
helped you
line.
to become a?
How has
Right.
it helped you become professional? Because finance is, not purely about speaking, but
Not at all.
exactly. So how has it benefited you as a professional?
I think this is there are two ideas that exist in this world that I would like to break today. One, accountants are boring. Second, that finance or any profession for that matter doesn't need communication. Um, I think, first of all, accountants are not boring at all. I think you are seeing one that is not. And I'm sure there are thousands of people who are not boring at all, are absolutely fantastic people. Second is, can communication skills support in any profession? Definitely. I'm sure you are leading at least a team of one. You are interacting with somebody. For example, let's take finance. Let's take accounting, right? You are reporting to somebody. You are talking to somebody. You are giving out reports. Now, if you are not going to communicate, yes, people who don't communicate but send an Excel sheet, who hide behind a computer screen and or reports, then I think there is a problem in leadership and perspective. We can't be that. You need people to explain why something is happening in the world, right? Everything is about numbers. So if you can't explain numbers, then what's the point? The whole world is built around numbers. Now, why does China have so much strength and power over the whole world? It's because of numbers. So somebody should be able to explain it. Why did in 2007 the whole world came into a halt? Why was there a recession? Because of numbers. So if we can't explain that, then we have failed in our profession. Then we, irrespective of whether you are a junior accountant or a director finance, or whether you are an engineer just joining, just graduated, or you are this great CEO of an engineering company, it does not matter. Whatever we do, we should be able to communicate. I'll give you a research that was done many years ago. That was, the people who sued doctors, there were two kinds of doctors who spoke to the patients, and then there were doctors who did not speak to the patients. And then an insurance company evaluated to see who was sued the most. So a doctor who, when you walk in, who asks, "Hi, how are you? Hope you're doing okay. I'm sure you are feeling good. I'm sure the family is doing great," had a much lesser chance of being sued just because he's communicating. And he or she had a much lesser chance of being sued for not being professional enough when they explain things in much greater detail. So communication is in everything, irrespective of what profession you are. There are times when you walk into a supermarket and there are security guards who make you feel great or make you feel bad, who are like, you might be the 1,000th customer they are greeting, but there are people who greet you as if you are a king or a queen. They are like, it's amazing to see you, good morning, good evening, sir, please park here, all of that, right? So they make you feel great. And then there are people who are like, why did you come here? Communication. It doesn't matter what profession you are in. It's the intent with which you deal with people. So profession does not matter. We can create the sunshine that we want to create wherever we go. Whether there is a one-man team or one team member or 1,000 team members, it does not matter. We can create sunshine and rainbows wherever we go. So if you want to create a change, don't wait till you can make a change of 1,000 or 1 million people. It doesn't matter. If you can create a change in a single person, I think we have done our job. So yeah, the profession does not matter. I think what matters is your intention, your intent to stand for something bigger and do something great.
Thank you very much, sir. I think the particular individual who asked the question also received a very fantastic answer. And now, along these same lines, I know you're not in HR, sir, but of course, things that you mentioned are also relevant. And there's a question in the chat box that has said, have you faced a situation at work where you had to fire people at work? And how has the Toastmaster experience helped you in conveying the message to them? Asking this question in conjunction with your current response, I believe this was
For
when
the
you
previous.
answered the question about
It-
your personal
It's a
experience.
beautiful
Yes.
question. It's a beautiful question. It's a beautiful question. But the experience is not beautiful. Yes, I have had to do that. Unfortunately, I think part of leadership is also to face uncomfortable situations and deal with it. Like leadership is not like I'll take all the credit and never the responsibility. I think leadership is taking all the responsibility but not the credit. So I believe, rather, when I had to do that, I have done it a few times. Unfortunately, I hope I don't have to do it in the future. But when I have to do it, I will step up and I have to do it. But then it's not only the Toastmaster skills; it's the skill of dealing with another human being, to be empathetic of the fact that that person is now losing a job, losing a livelihood, but also being direct enough that 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 the person is not good enough for the position, so he or she had to be let go. It's maybe so. All what matters is that decision has to be made, but how we deal with it, how we communicate it, how we empathize with the other person is what matters. If we are like, okay, you're fired. If we are like in the TV shows, you're fired, then I think we have a problem here because it shows the character of the person who is doing it. But I think when we do it with discomfort, when we do it uh, with empathy, and when we say that, tell me how I can help you, but then this position unfortunately is not for you. And also I think it should not happen in a way that whenever a company makes a loss, the first thing that you do is to fire a person to reduce employees. I think that should never be the case. But when after continuously discussing and after continuously suggesting, after trying to help another person, and still they are not the best fit, I think for the betterment of the organization and the people around, you have to make that decision. But while making that decision, be empathetic. I have been empathetic, and in the meeting, when that happened, one of those employees told me, I see how uncomfortable you are while doing this, and for that reason, I respect you. Because I was empathetic. I was saying that this is the reason why this is happening, but I'm empathetic to you. Let me know how I can help you. I will give you a good recommendation. I'll even recommend you for some other places. I will speak to somebody else. But then these are the things, reasons why I'm helping you to understand why this is happening, so that this doesn't happen elsewhere. But but I am empathetic to your situation. So I'm here to help you and support you. But then this relationship ends here. So yes, I have done it, and I have done it with empathy, and that I think being a communicator is also being about being an empathetic communicator, right? So to understand people from their perspective, from where they come from, what they feel. Like when somebody is feeling down, you can't motivate and inspire. Anyway, motivation is, like it's garbage at times. You can't go to a plant and say, there will be a flower tomorrow, there will be a flower tomorrow, there will be a flower tomorrow, and expect a flower tomorrow. You can't, right? So, but empathy is honesty. It's to be, I feel for you and I'm here for you, I'm here to support. When it comes from that place, people always understand, and that is usually how it is. So I have done that way, and it was an uncomfortable experience. But then, as leaders, we have to face them too.
Thank you very much, sir. I think, again, that answered the question very well, because that is a skill that, although we might not practice much, although we do in evaluations, I believe a lot. You emphasized on this at the start. Now, the first question that came in, I kept till the last because I felt this would be more apt to be discussed at the end because you were building upon it. And this question is, do you believe that Toastmasters unites people, and why do you think it is an apt program for a country like Sri Lanka?
That's an interesting question, but I would like to disagree with that question a little bit. Uh, no program in the world is apt for a country, or it's apt for everybody. There are people who have come into Toastmasters, and also there are people who have left Toastmasters. So for some people, it didn't work out because of personal perspectives. So because of who we are and what we see and how we see it. So there is no program in the world that will work. That's a blanket solution for everything and everybody. I don't believe in that. But let's forget about Toastmasters for a moment, but let's talk about communication and now rephrase that question. I think um, uh, the question was whether Toastmasters can unite a country
Yes,
like
can I
ours.
repeat it, sir?
Yes,
Do
please.
you believe that Toastmasters unites people, and why do you think it is an apt program for a country like Sri Lanka? So it had two parts about
Right.
whether you believe Toastmasters unites people and whether it's apt for a country like Sri Lanka.
Fabulous. Now let's remove Toastmasters and add communication there. Whether communication can unite people, whether communication is an apt program, a communication program is an apt program for the country. I think we have already answered that question, right? So, so um, definitely it can unite people. What is the purpose of communication? The purpose of communication is to bring people together. I might have a perspective of life and I might say the world is red in color. I only see it red. And somebody else might say, no, it's beautiful, it's blue. Somebody else say it's green. The moment we think red is the most perfect color and nothing else matters, or somebody says green is the most perfect color and nothing else matters, we have a problem there. How are we going to solve it without communication? In personal life, we have differences of opinion with people we love. How do we solve it? Not by saying that what I say is correct, but by saying, let's talk about it. In teams, in organizations, we have differences of opinion. How do we solve those problems? The only way to solve those problems is through communication. So when there are differences of opinion, only when we communicate clearly without the need to judge people. So there are people who ask me about things and they are repeatedly responding to what I'm saying with the objective of making me wrong. And I am laughing in my head because I'm saying like, okay, if you want me to be wrong, I will be wrong for you any day you want. I'm perfectly okay with that. But we should be listeners who listen for the purpose of listening and learning and growing rather than answering and being right always. And more important than that is to communicate and say things so that I increase your understanding, not to say that you are an idiot. If somebody says 1 plus 1 equals 2, or somebody else says 1 plus 1 equals 11, if the person who says 2 judges and looks down upon the person who is saying 11, the other person will never want to learn it because that will make him wrong. And that will more importantly make the other person right. For that reason, will refuse to learn. So the best case scenario at any given point of time, where are our problems coming usually from? Religion, ethnicity, country, what we stand for, what organization we stand for, men or women, things like that, right? All these differences. Every time we bash somebody for something, for their opinion, we are creating a gap that can never be filled. I can be right, but that has to be communicated in a manner that the other person is willing to accept. Every time you are right and you say, I am right, listen to me, nobody is going to listen to you. They are like, okay, you being right makes me wrong. For that reason, I will not listen. So what if we communicate in a manner that what I know I am right, but I'm trying to help you understand. You might not agree with me completely today, but then one day you will. And I am going to invest my time and effort and energy to make you understand that one day. So look at the differences the world has in terms of religion or ethnicity or all of that. It's all because most of us are born with a religion or an ethnicity. We didn't choose it. First of all, I believe we should not be proud of something that we did not choose. If we have chosen something, great, fabulous. Then, then if we can't convince somebody that I am saying I believe in what I believe because of this reason, and I accept you for what you believe, then I think we have failed as communicators. So the only way we can do that, only way we can succeed is when the other person is willing to listen, and you are there to support and communicate in a manner that doesn't overwhelm the other person or doesn't make them feel that they are not good enough. We have to communicate in a manner that we are there with the objective of making the other people understand, making the other person understand rather than being right. So I believe communication definitely can unite, and communication is the only way that can unite. Unfortunately, I know we are running out of time, but I'm going to take 2 more minutes to finish this. Most of us good people are silent about the things that matter. My favorite quote in the whole world is Martin Luther King Jr. said, "Our lives begin to end the day we are silent about the things that matter." Our lives begin to end the day we are silent about the things that matter. Every single time, good people who know to empathize with others, who know how to listen, who don't come from a place of, I am better than you listen to me. I am right, so you listen to me. All of these good people, we are silent about the things that matter. So, unfortunately, the people whose voices we hear, we don't live in a bad world at all. We don't live in a bad world at all. We live in a super world. Our perspectives have grown. Uh, the world, education, and knowledge is in our fingertips. We have grown as people and perspectives. But the problem is, we feel the world has become not so great because we are listening to those who are speaking, whose voices are heard, are those who stand for the wrong things. I believe we all have, especially Toastmasters who are working towards improving communication skills, should start voicing our opinion for the things that matter. From the place of, I'm not better than you are not better than me. Let us communicate with each other so that we can share our thoughts and we all can become better. I'm not right, you're not right. Let us discuss so that we both can become right. I think that is the objective. The moment we do that, I think, I think, I think the world will start hearing people who have better opinions, better perspective than those who are making the world a bad place than that was before. Actually.
Of course, sir. Definitely. It always needs to be a win-win situation so that nobody feels bad, and that way we can make the world a better place. Thank you so much for sharing your views on that question. Another question that had come in was, ATM Yoga, what is the most important thing that you have unlearned in Toastmasters? I think a very different question to all the other questions that we received. What is the most important thing that you have unlearned in Toastmasters?
Very interesting question. There is some disturbance in the surrounding. Okay, I think that's a super question. I love that question. I love that question. What I have unlearned, I will tell you what I have unlearned. I have made mistakes in Toastmaster where I have stood for the wrong things. I have stood for achievement over momentum. I have stood for achieving things for myself than for the greater good of others. I have stood for personal gain than gain of everybody else. I have gone on to do speeches that did not satisfy the objectives but had to complete it because I had to achieve something just before the deadline. I have made all of those mistakes. As a leader, I have led teams that has gone on to. There is. I'm sorry, there is a disturbance, but yeah, I hope the disturbance is no more anymore. So, as a leader, I have to be honest and say that I have made mistakes where I have led people to achieve goals as fast as possible, as not illegally but unethically as possible. I have done that, but I have unlearned that there is no purpose of achievement at all unless we stand for the right things. We have to stand for the right things. We are people who should stand. somebody at this time wants to sell something, I guess. So, so to
It's
conclude,
okay.
so to conclude, we have to stand for the right things in life. And what I have unlearned is there is no glory in achievements, in certificates, in awards, in people saying you are great. Nothing of that kind matters. What matters is what you stand for. Are we standing for the right things? Are we standing for the right vision? Are we driving through for the right vision? There will be thousands of people who will be against you for what you say. Can't help. What you believe is what you believe. If you don't have the courage to stand for what you believe, then you are not, you don't deserve to stand at all. So I believe what I have unlearned is it doesn't matter what people say or what people stand for. What we believe and what we stand for is important, and we should steadfastly stand for it, because what we stand for is what we stand for, and we deserve to stand for the right things. Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. We keep on getting questions. So there was another question that was asked from a viewer who believes that dealing with strangers is relatively easier than dealing with family members, and he or she wants to know how your experience as a Toastmaster has helped in overcoming this, basically in dealing with family members, because you spoke a lot about dealing with people you meet outside in society, but is there anything specific that you can
That's
share
a
with
very
us with
interesting
regard
question.
to?
I believe
Thought
in
the
the
same.
exact opposite. I think dealing with family members is easy.
Yeah,
I think dealing with
it
strangers is a
contradicts the popular view.
yeah, I know. I think dealing with strangers is difficult because you always have, now for example, let's say you are having a bad day and somebody at work comes to you and says, "Can I talk to you about a problem that I have at work?" You should listen to them intently, even though you are already having a bad day. Your day is full. You are down for some reason, but you have to be that leader who listens empathetically, who offers comfort, who speaks to them, who can't show that I am having a bad day. You can't say like, I have a bad day, I can't talk to you today. But you have to be that person who goes out and says, it's perfectly all right. I'm here to listen to you. Let's talk about it. We have to be the best version of ourselves every single time we are interacting with somebody else. Just because you have evaluated 1,000 times, delivered great speech evaluations 1,000 different times, you can't go to a club and have had a bad day and deliver a bad evaluation. You will be remembered for that bad evaluation. You might have delivered absolutely great evaluations. Nobody will speak about that. You know, this guy, came and said this speech is not good enough at all. People will judge you and remember you for that mistake you made. So for with strangers, you have to always be good. But at home, when you are having a bad day, yes, you have to be empathetic with others, but they will also make an effort and know that it's okay for you to have a bad day. And when they have something to say, they will hold it back and give you the opportunity to relax and recover, and then they can share what problems that they are going through. When they are having a good day, when they have achieved something great, I have had times when my family has held it back, not saying how great their day was, great their achievement was, just because I'm not having a great day, and I have done the same thing for them. So at home we have that comfort where we have the understanding already. With strangers we don't have that. Yeah. So and at okay, I also agree with the question in this way. When the question says it's easy to deal with strangers, it's okay to say anything with the strangers, right? You can smile and say, amazing, superb shirt, you're wearing a super shirt today, the tie looks perfect on you, or the lipstick color is amazing. We can't comment on that anymore these days, the world has changed. We can say great shoe, or I don't know, right? So whatever that is appropriate, we can say that to a stranger. But at home you have to be honest. You can't be a personality who's fake. So for that reason, it's difficult. For a stranger, you can say anything in this world and survive still. But at home, when you do something wrong, that's called to order. That's brought, the spotlight is on that, right? So you have to be yourself, the true version of yourself. So for that reason, I think communicating there, we have to be careful. We have to be. I think it's easier if we are who we are. When we are who we are, we don't have to pretend. But then, if we are trying to pretend, then we have a problem. But I think building trust, being honest, it's very difficult. I know it's at times we can't be. There are truths that have to be bent a little bit, lies that have not to be, things that should not be told. All of that is true. But I think if it comes from a place of honesty, I'm not saying it because I don't want to say it. I want to hide it, but because I'm dealing with it yet, or there is something that I'm doing, I'm not ready to share yet, but that's okay, because one day I'm going to tell you, you are very important to me, I'm going to tell you that, but I'm not doing that today because of this reason. If it comes from a point of honesty, I think any communication is easy. So when you're having a difference, this is what people have taught me. People have told me that I build great bridges, but I'm also very fast to burn it. Like when there is a fight, I burn it and run away. I'm like, okay, go. I'm going away. But I think what I have learned over the years is we don't have to burn the bridge. We can kick it a little bit and move on and then come back to the same bridge. So we can be angry, we can be upset, we can be not smiling all the time, but then be honest about it. It's okay to have a bad day, but have that communication and say it. Like when you're having a bad day, say that you're having a bad day already so that people know how to deal with you. The problem is there is no communication. People are like, you figure it out. How to figure it out? We are not astrologers. In a world where astrologers are going wrong, how can mere human beings, mere mortals like you and I can predict things? So why don't we communicate, make an effort to communicate with each other in a and we are honest with them and they are honest with us. We are uh, we we are happy for them and they are happy for us. So I think that is how we build great connections and great relationships. Unfortunately, it's not easy at all. But then all what matters is whether we are at least trying. As long as we try, I think it's perfectly all right.
Of course, I think, as you mentioned, good communication is always the bridge between confusion and clarity. So thank you so much for sharing your thoughts on that. So with that, we conclude. I think you got a comment that saying that it was a very heart touching answer. So I believe you had your effectiveness in terms of answering that question is spot on. So with that, we come to our final question. We are over time, but we take a few minutes to share this question also. So last but not least, based on everything that we spoke earlier, what advice would you have for the audience today in summarization, I would say, on how they can capitalize on their Toastmaster learnings when dealing not only with themselves or their family, but also the society at large? And what advice would you want to give these Toastmasters? And of course, for somebody who is embarking on this journey for the first time, where can such a person start? I know there's a lot, but all I'm asking you for is a summary. And for those who are new, a simple a simple piece of advice as to where they can start and build upon practicing the skills learned in Toastmasters outside the framework of Toastmasters.
Fabulous, fabulous. So there are three aspects to the answer. First one is stand for something bigger than yourself. Always have a long-term view than a short-term view. There is Simon Sinek's latest book is The Infinite Game. Please read it. It teaches us how we should stand for the bigger, larger, long-term goal rather than short-term pleasure. Happiness is long-term, pleasure is short-term. So let us stand for the bigger long-term goal, long-term vision. So first is to stand for something bigger. Second is, so first part of it is stand for something bigger, and also find the cause that you want to stand for. Most of the time we support a lot of causes. We don't know what we are standing for. I think we all have to pick and choose the things that we have to stand for and stand for it strongly. One. Second is be absolutely selfish. Be absolutely selfish. The problem with good people, unfortunately, is we are too early to give back. So now, for example, in Toastmasters, I have seen people who are still learning, becoming good speakers, but they already want to give back also. So what happens is, rather than focusing absolutely narrow-mindedly focusing on growing themselves, now they are also focusing on giving back. So the time and effort that they had to put to grow themselves is now divided into two. So what happens is you don't grow and become the best version of yourself, and then also you're now giving back. So now, whereas in about a year you could have become the best version of yourself and you could have given much more, but you're also now halfway giving back. So whoever is receiving is also not receiving the best of yourself, and then you're also not giving your best. So first of all, be absolutely selfish to learn, to learn, to learn. And then when you give back, it's much more beautiful. So second is to be absolutely selfish. First of all, stand for something much bigger. Second is to be absolutely selfish in growing. Third is give everything you have. Share everything you have. You're not a brand, so you don't have to be perfect. You're not somebody who has to appear you appear like a painting that is so perfect. You don't have to be human and give everything you have. Life has never defeated people who have given everything they have had. There is a billionaire, I want you to research, who gave out everything, billions and billions dollars of money, who has given back everything while he was living. Now he is broke, but then look at the life he has lived. He has given back, given away billions of dollars of money, everything that he has earned, to people and charities that make a difference in the world. We don't, I definitely can't give back billions, so I can't even consider giving back a million today. But we all can give back something. When you have stood for a cause, when you have selfishly grown yourself, and never hold it back. Give everything you have for free. Never try to be a brand. Be human so that people can relate to you. Show your weaknesses. Show the mistakes that you have made. Don't try to portray an image that is so beautiful that people are like, oh, that's a perfect person, I can never relate to them. But be that person who shows the vulnerabilities that you have, so that we can relate to you also, so people can learn from you. So after being selfishly learning everything, give back everything that you have. By giving back everything you have and being true to who you are, you can make an amazing impact in the whole world. And that is, I think, the way you can start today. First, stand for a cause. Second, be selfish in learning. Third, give back without holding back anything. When you do that, I believe we can make a difference in the world. We can make an amazing difference in the world. So that is how I will suggest anybody to start today, to try make an impact. Yeah, that's it.
Wonderfully said, sir. I think I have nothing more to comment, and I think you summarized, or we got to the essence of what we really wanted to communicate. So we spoke about how we can go beyond Toastmaster, why, how, and then finally gave us a simple 3-step model that we can follow to ensure that we are making the best out of it. So like you said at the very beginning, it's always important to go that extra mile. And every time you go that extra mile, that opportunity is going to follow you. And when that opportunity follows you, it's up to you to grab it. And of course, improve yourself to the best of your ability and then give back. So I think the message that you conveyed at the end, the 3 steps that you mentioned, definitely sum it all up. So thank you very much for being with us. I know we are gone 20 minutes over time, but I think every minute, every additional minute that we spent, that all our participants have spent being logged into the session has been worth the time. Thank you so much. We have so many good comments coming in. Even in the Q&A, there are comments that have come in to say big thank you to you, sir. I know you're a person with a very busy schedule. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation and being here this evening, and for sharing your wonderful thoughts with us, your experiences, and for helping us to be better Toastmasters and also great people, great citizens in society. So thank you again.
Thank you very much for the
us.
opportunity. I will have to also thank DTM Misal for giving me the opportunity to speak, and everybody who made this happen. And a big thank you to you. You are on point with everything that you did. You were absolutely fabulous. I'm sure. I think you're one of the best people to host a panel discussion. So congratulations. I'm very proud and happy to see you there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. And I wouldn't, it would be insufficient. I mean, I would not be doing you justice if I don't mention that you were also one of the very first people I met as a Toastmaster. So as soon as I joined the club, I was part of a speechcraft, or rather I got to involve and organize a speechcraft. And you're one of the first speakers that I came across in the fraternity. So I think all of that inspiration has helped me along the way, and I'm very proud of that fact, the fact that I was able to interact with individuals of your caliber. So that's on a side note. Thank you again. And to all our participants, I'd like to thank you for being with us. So like DTM Yogendra Prasad Satyasilan said, go ahead, break out of your box. Don't worry if you trip and fall, because outside your comfort zone is where all that magic happens. So I hope all of you have a pleasant evening. Good night.